Welcome to the JD Bunkis podcast. It is the holiday season. Gotta mute all my devices. Yeah, we're good. Ben Ennis is here. Do you feel more gratitude around the holidays?
No, I feel generally speaking, and I know this is kind of a cliche, but I do get more anxious and like angry. I don't. I don't know. The weather is part of it, but there's like other things. Less so this year because we're not hosting Christmas this year, so I guess there's less of that to take care of, and all the Christmas shopping is done. But then,
So what is it? You need something. You're one of those guys where you need something to be mad about.
no. Generally speaking, that's not it. I don't know what it is. It's just no. I don't feel more gratitude. That's what I can say.
What about when you're
sure.
sitting around the tree with your family and they're opening gifts?
That's nice.
Do you
I
feel
think
the
that's
gratitude
nice.
then? Do you look around and go, "Oh man, I'm so lucky to be surrounded"?
If you want me to answer honestly, I'll tell you there are times I feel lots of gratitude, and it's when I'm with my kids, like playing sports, and I do that a lot though. Like I have a lot of gratitude in my life, generally speaking, spending a lot of time with my family. Like I spend a lot of time with my family, so it's not really all that different. The holiday season.
You're like, you again?
Yeah, it's like I eat worse and drink more booze. I guess
that's the trouble with the holidays is just knowing you're gonna be a pig.
Yeah. Or, eat.
But it's like you tell yourself, you go, I have to do this, but you don't.
Eat?
No, of course you have to eat, but I'm saying you don't have to eat the way you do during the holidays. And yet my brain, every time I'm like, of course I will. I won't restrict one urge.
I know you know this.
Yeah.
But for people who don't know what it's like to host a morning radio show, being exhausted all the time, which is like, hey, waking up at 4:30. Lots of people do it for work, but they can go to sleep whenever they want.
A lot of people do it for work and then they go do manual labor.
Totally.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, those people go to bed at like 8, right?
Yeah, I know. That is the thing. Yeah.
It's a big difference. Yeah. Right? But being on little sleep, I don't think I realized that, the most unhealthy part of it is like you lose your inhibitions, which can be dangerous when you're having important conversations with
like
people.
this one, I'm wondering where this is going now.
But also that there's like the filter from brain to actions. So that exists in eating. Like I get home and I'm starving, right? Because I've been up since 4:30, and it's like I'll just have a snack. No, and then 45 minutes later, I've eaten like 3 meals worth of food because you're just like glassy-eyed, filling your face with whatever's in the fridge. That's the worst.
Yeah, that's not good. That's definitely not good. That's not the way you do it. No, I've been feeling more gratitude this year.
Good for you. That's great.
I'm in the holiday spirit. I'm excited. I got my brother's coming home for Christmas for the first time in a long time. Lives on the West Coast. Gonna have full house. I'm out of here in a couple of days. Gonna get to see my vet swimming, which is a grandmother. It's gonna be good. I'm grateful for a good year of the show.
That's
feeling good.
Great. Yeah.
I was thinking though too is because you have young kids and you do a lot for them.
Yeah.
It was more so when you think they get to the age of actually feeling gratitude, because everything to them is an expectation essentially, right? And even when they say thank you, right? Like I've bought your kids presents before and they go thank you, but it's not a sincere thank you. It's not. You know what I'm saying? It's polite. They're more polite. They're like thank you for the thing that obviously you had to give us.
Yeah.
What age you like? Because I would want that back as a parent. I would want when you're hosting Christmas and you're doing all the things and you're putting it all on. Yeah. That's what you have to live with. Is you're in more of the phase of not giving out the gratitude. You're in the phase of where's my gratitude?
Yeah. And again, not to be too serious and honest about it, but I think my kids are actually pretty good.
I don't think so.
You don't know
I know
anything.
them. I know them well. I know them well.
No, you don't know anything.
I think I know your kids better than every other adult they know.
Not even close.
Oh, that's not true. That's maybe your grandparents. Their grandparents.
I mean, they have like hockey teams that they see the coaches.
Yeah. I still know them better. I still know your kids better. I do.
Okay.
They're good kids.
All
I
right.
like your kids a lot. One more than the other.
Okay.
But they're good. But you really think they sit there and they go, man, our dad does a lot for us. You really think they've got that processing power?
I think they like the time that we spend together.
No, they like the time.
And they understand that that's great.
No, you think they have perspective to be like, boy, a lot of other kids' dads aren't. No way. Like, they're not that old.
I just think that they like it. Like, they
Yeah,
have
like
gratitude.
is different. Like is different. Enjoy yourself is different than gratitude.
Yeah.
You go to a party and you have a fun time.
And
You're not
grateful.
necessarily thinking like, I'm grateful. Anyway, whatever. This is how we've exhausted this conversation. Just was what I was thinking of in the train in today with you and having the pressures of the holiday season that, yeah, frankly, I don't have. I get just so much. It's got to be so much more stressful this time of year with kids and figuring out how to line everything up. And yeah, I trot into the holidays and go, I'm in full relax mode time.
Right. Yeah. Feed me. Give me my eggnog.
Gimme.
I'll be sitting back, relaxing.
But that's why I'm grateful.
Cool.
That's why I'm grateful. Because it's so funny that I'm taking all this time off work.
Yeah.
And the things I'm looking forward to, I'm like, okay, so there's football on Saturday and on Sunday, and then I get the NBA slate.
Yeah.
Actually, I am looking forward to dialing down my Leafs intensity. I'm really excited for the World Juniors. No, it's true. Like, I'll watch some. I'll probably consume more than I would if it wasn't my job.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the first time where I've gone. You know what my biggest holiday fear is? This is to tell people to make them mad at me. This is why I'm grateful. My biggest holiday stress is I don't want the Jays to make a major move while I'm off.
Yeah, which may very well happen. Like, I think it's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
That sucks. It just, so much of what we do, right, is, and I get when people were critical of media members because they go, you got to have something to talk about. I'm like, yeah, we do. Mm-hmm. We have to think actively about things to discuss. And so sometimes certain narratives do get blown out of proportion because it becomes a talking point for a bunch of different people with a bunch of different shows.
Yeah.
So it's a fair criticism. The thing is that I think people get wrong is this idea that you're sitting there and crafting it and going like, what will get the clicks?
Yeah.
What will get the clicks?
No.
I'm not aware of anybody in Canadian media who is currently getting paid by the click.
Yeah. Well, and secondarily, I think people know this by the success of your show that it's you can pretty quickly and easily see through the thin veil of somebody putting on airs for a take, and it's it has to at least start with a kernel of truth, right? And like maybe expand it a little bit, but it's not that hard to get up in arms at some of the things this week that have got people up in arms at.
100%, right? Like I feel everything that I've said about the Leafs this week, I don't care at all when I'm getting negative pushback.
Yeah.
Because I go, no, this is how I feel.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this for you. I'm not performing. I'm frustrated with the way that things are, and I'm tired of pretending like game to game, a win here or a comeback there is materially different than the overall product and the overall feeling of the fan base. But when it comes to the Blue Jays, I have genuine excitement about this offseason. I love talking about it. And so many of these days that I'm talking about where it's a little bit of filler and you kind of stare at the screen and you go, man, what am I going to talk about? Or you're kind of hoping that a story emerges. You have a flat day.
Yeah.
And then if something like this happens, you go, I love my job.
Yeah. Because that's easy to do those shows, and it's just and it's not even just the content, but it's the emotion that is fueled.
Correct.
And the passion that is fueled from something like Kyle Tucker signing or Bo Bichette.
Totally right. And so for me, this is the first time in my career I'm not bringing any equipment home for the holidays.
Oh, so you're actively keeping, because you won't be able to help yourself.
I can't help myself, and I know that I'm the type of person.
You still have your phone though. You could call into a show.
Yeah, but that's not the. Yeah, and I would. I would probably text a few.
Well, they don't have is there not a Sportsnet radio station in the Ottawa region that you could drop in?
Yeah, yeah.
A Rogers radio?
Yeah, I'm sure they got something there. Anyway.
You'll find a way. Kyle Tucker signs a 10-year, $400 million deal. You're just going to shut up about it for a week and a half?
No, I figured that I would do something on my Instagram.
Oh, so you already thought this out. You're such a liar. You're like, I got to keep myself away from doing the take.
I'm saying this is the number one thing where it could derail. Don't do this, Blue Jays, is what I'm saying. We've come this far, all right?
Fine, just do it.
holiday freeze it. No, don't do it. Don't you dare do it. Just wait.
It'll keep you away from having political discussions at the.
No, but I love that.
No.
You know I love that. You know I show up, I see you.
I think your family is pleading with the Blue Jays to get this done.
Oh, my mom has.
The Kyle Tucker, we need something else to shift your focus away from the political discussions into a sports topic that you're all wound up about.
Yeah, that's true.
She's desperate for the Blue Jays to sign Kyle Tucker during this Christmas break.
Oh, my mom has absolutely hit me with no politics stuff. Because I like my mom's got 4 sisters, right? And we got a big family, and I love chopping it up.
No, we know.
Yeah, I love getting in the mud. Getting in there.
Yeah.
It's fun.
You're not afraid to have a contrary opinion.
Yeah, no, I'll do that.
No, we know. Again, everyone knows.
Yeah.
Everyone knows.
No, everyone knows that's close to me.
Yeah. Anyone that's had a real conversation with you.
Yeah, I'll start to meander from sports pretty quick. That's the thing. I get so bored of sports in terms of day-to-day conversations. I like it when people are like the Blue Jays, for example, when they were blowing up.
Yeah.
And everybody's talking about the Jays, and there's an added excitement to it, and people, especially the people in my lives that are either diehards that have been waiting for something like that, or people in my life that had zero interest in this whatsoever, who all of a sudden are gravitating to something that acts as a connector between people. That excites me the most. Like, you and I have expressed this many times. I don't get bothered really by internet comments. They kind of, in terms of the degrees, the scale of people who are impacted by something someone says about them online, I think I'm in a pretty good place. The odd one gets to me. The odd day I'll get frustrated. I'll see something and I'll go, ah.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's water off a duck's back. That being said, the thing I like the least about where sports are at in the online world is how polarizing they've become and how much you just see people fighting online, whereas I do like it when there's some cohesion. And even if that's cohesion and hate and frustration, like that's why I actually don't mind where the Leafs, no, I do mind where the Leafs are at, but I don't mind as much that people are starting to finally feel free to voice more of an opinion, that this is reaching a point where they're tired of just being quote unquote positive. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I guess part of that is just, the fact that they're factually not in a playoff spot. It's like you cannot really even point to the results. It's like, they won a game. It's like, no, you actually can't. There is no sugarcoating it. It's like, it's ugly, and he looked dispassionate, and you're shoving a goalie's pad into the net to score a goal, and their toughness is their replay room and whatever. Yeah. But they won the game.
Their toughness is their replay room and stuff. That's so good.
But no, I get that. So again, I know you're not rooting for it. The more I think about it, I am rooting for Kyle Tucker to sign during the break for the sake of your family. Just to
why? That means it'll be ruined. Oh no, that's
to keep you.
No, but that'll only keep me for a day.
Okay, really? So you'll get back on track?
Yeah, I'll get back on track.
All right, okay.
Like I've been sharper than knives. I read a lot. I got spare time. I'm ready. Okay, so the bow of it all. Yesterday, there's this report out there. It was Mark Feinsand who had it, who said Bo is now open. Or what was the wording of it? It wasn't that he's now open. It was that he's like he's informing more teams that he's going to play second base. I reached out to a few people, and one of those guys was like, I chat with old BNS, and he was like, I kind of thought that was already out there. I went, I kind of thought so too, but so maybe that's a little bit of an Americanization of Bo, and I don't mean that in any kind of they don't know what's going on way. I just mean that when you're talking about someone who is a Blue Jay in a market that's hyper focused on the Jays, I think most people were assuming if he was going to come back here, he'd have to be open to playing two-bag because Jimenez looks so good at short. He did it during the postseason. But that being said, do you think that him having this out there publicly, and if the willingness is very real, that tilts more in the favor of the Jays, or that makes it more likely that he leaves?
I think it's more likely he leaves. Like, I think...
Yeah,
I, like you, thought that this was already said and done and buried, but maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe, and I thought the come to Jesus moment might have been in the World Series when he just did it, but that was a guy that was going to do whatever it took to help his team win, and kudos to him. and he did it.
He was also
passively.
physically compromised.
Yep.
So the idea that he was going to play shortstop was, a little too much to bear. Even the idea that he was going to, most of us thought when he was going to return that they were going to have to shuffle the lineup in a way that he would be the DH and Springer would have to go to the outfield.
Right.
Yeah.
But out of desperation, and because he wanted to win a World Series, said, I'll play second base, whatever. That's fine. But it has always felt like so much a part of his identity. And I know we had many moons ago when they were in conversations to go out and trade for Francisco Lindor. Would he be willing?
No, we brought it up because we thought they might sign Andrelton Simmons.
Either way, it was around the same time period. And it's like, if there's somebody, I guess, that's like obvious, better at fit, or we can only acquire them because they're a shortstop, I suppose I'd consider it. But
the only thing with why I mentioned Andrelton Simmons and even say it is that it's a closer comp to what Jimenez is. Where it's like if you get Lindor,
no bad.
Yeah, if you get Lindor, you're
He's
saying
just an MVP.
Yeah, you go, hey man, I'm gonna tip the cap. Like you're on my level of player.
Right.
You can look in the mirror and say, hey, I handed the rock over to this guy.
But
it's a little different when you go, hey, it's a Jimenez or an Andrelton Simmons who is like I guess part of your core financially, but in terms of your identity as a team, not so much.
Yeah, I felt like, and maybe part of the stumbling block between him and the organization in extending beyond the 3 years that they figured out to buy out all his arbitration was the stubbornness from him to move off of shortstop. And obviously you deal with that if you got a guy who with 90 plus RBIs and had the OPS, or I think it was actually the highest OPS plus of his career this past season. And that type of offensive output, even if he's close to like a league average defender at that position and that's where he wants to play, you take it. You take it. But I think what we've seen out of this front office year in, year out, and sometimes to their detriment, is they've leaned into the defensive side of things, right? And the run prevention side of things. And you don't think, and I know you do, but that the acquisition of Andres Jimenez, while they hope to recoup his offensive value, it was as a defender and not a defender at second base. Like they thought he was always capable of playing shortstop at an elite level, and the eventual error,
part of it was that thought.
Yeah,
it gave you insurance.
Totally, the successor to Bichette at that position, and how much would that have changed retroactively the conversations? If like years prior he'd moved to second base, I think there's a possibility there. But as far as how it impacts their offseason right now, I just think there's just a couple of teams. Maybe the Red Sox are one of them. Maybe the Mariners are another one. Maybe the Giants are another one who have established shortstops who now, I know you wanted your cake and to eat it too. You wanted the money, but you also wanted the position. And you went out there and it's like, not just cake or I'm just going to be able to eat it. So, and I'll, whatever, $200 million, fine. I have to play second base. I'll do that. You finally come to that realization. Well, it reopens the door for maybe a Red Sox if the door had, in fact, been closed, and varying reports on that, or the Giants or the Mariners. I just think factually there's more avenues that I could see it happening as opposed to before if he was stuck in his ways is playing a shortstop.
So this gives me the other question. If he was stuck in his ways for you, like let's say you just mentioned it, the Giants go, we'll give you more money. But it's not like I'm not talking they're offering him $180 million and the Blue Jays are saying we're giving you $130. He's not going to leave, $50 million on the table. But the money is similar, but it's more somewhere else, but they're going to put him at second base. And you come back to the Blue Jays and they're like they obviously have a number that they would bring Bo Bichette back at.
Yeah.
Basically almost I would think no matter what happens here.
Yeah, and maybe they have last right of refusal.
Right. So they get last right of refusal. And he comes back to them and he goes, I'm willing to stay here for the contract that you've offered, but not to play second base, to play short, and you got to move Jimenez back. Would you do that?
Yeah, I'd do that.
Yeah, I would too.
Of course, I would do that.
Yeah, but that's part of the
because part of the contract that they've outlaid and they've done it with their secret formula is like they understand the value of like a diminished defender at that position, but with the offense that he provides, there's a reason why that number exists, right?
Yeah.
And it's because they value him at this dollar figure at that position, playing the type of defense he does. So, yeah, if they can bring him back at that, they know that the league's worst everyday defender at shortstop is still a valuable player at that position at a certain number, considering the offense he provides. So if they get him at that number, and yeah, again, not the world's greatest defender at shortstop, but Derek Jeter, neither. But so what? He's one of the best hitters of all time. You eat it, and you just are happy with the incredible offense that you get at that position. And maybe, down the road eventually, when you get into your 30s and Jeter's like the one example of the guy that stayed at the position into the late stages of his career. Like the other all-time great shortstops.
I was going to say, if you can be one of the most famous players ever at your position and a multi-time winner, then you can probably get away with a little bit more, is what we learned through Derek Jeter.
Right.
Yeah. The thing that would actually scare me is not the second base part, because to me, that's the piece of the equation where I go, even looking around baseball, like, yeah, all right. I already imagined Bo's market was going to be competitive, and that he's 27 years old, and when he's healthy, he hits. The real question mark is he going to be able to stay healthy? And you have 2 years in a row where you suffer a major injury that compromises. And yeah, man, it was a major. Why?
No, I was just going to say, because this one was a little different, because it was like a contact injury. He literally like slid into a dude's knee.
It was, but even still, it's 2 years where he missed a bunch of baseball. And you look at that and say, when he's healthy, he's obviously this. But are you going to pay into, like, are you going to factor in differently 27 years old when it's 2 years of being hurt already at 27 years old? That's the only point I'm making. I think some teams would. And from what I've been able to gather, that actually is a big part of the conversation, is Bo's health moving forward with his career. The scary piece of the equation to me more so is if he's willing to play third base, because then you start to open up with this potential. And I touched on this briefly yesterday, but to me, it kind of feels right now there's a real musical chairs with the remaining free agents, and people are going to start to tense up a touch. And again, this is just an idiot's read on how things are going and asking some people, but really having no concrete evidence to support this. Okay, so my thought is the Jays' primary target at this point is clear. It is Kyle Tucker. They don't know what his market is. No one has come out and decided that he is a $400 million player. Maybe the market is kind of nickel and diming him and hoping that the longer this thing goes, the more likely he would be to acquiesce to things like deferrals and taking the under $400 million mark, somewhere closer to the 350 range, which is what some people are projecting. Some are still saying he's going to get 400 as long as he takes the deferrals, like it'll be a fake 400, right? They're waiting in on this market, and they probably have a good relationship with Bo and that right of last refusal that you've discussed. But if someone blows Bo out of the water, the Jays would probably let him walk, see how things go with Kyle Tucker before they jump that overpaying Bo Bichette, that their price on him is a little bit more fixed than it would be, say, on some of the other stars that they've chased over the last couple of years, or, for example, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who they went way out of their valuation for.
Circumstance.
Of course, but I'm saying Bo does not fit into the unique circumstance of it all in terms of going way over the valuation. So there's a scenario here, and that's why I find Alex Bregman and Cody Bellinger to be so interesting, where now there's rumors going, hey, Bellinger could be a Met. And based on the way the Mets are operating,
they're getting all the Yankees.
Where their only strategy is, what are the Yankees like? Well, I want that. I'll take. They're gonna literally build the Yankees over just like down the street. It's
Bellinger would be the first one that the Yankees fans would be upset to have lost.
No, the Soto.
Yeah, I mean this offseason.
Sure. Yeah, I don't think they were heartbroken about Luke
Weaver or Devin Williams. They're fine with that.
Yeah, insane that this is they've 3 closers.
Yeah.
2 off seasons, 3 closers for the New York Mets taken from the New York Yankees. It's like, again, it is bordering a little bit on, it feels like there has to be a touch of that going on when you've signed 4 guys from there.
Sure.
But so the Diamondbacks are circling now for Bregman, and there's at least some angst in Red Sox land that he is not a guarantee to return. Whereas there seemed to be a point where they thought no matter what, they would be the team that pushed in heaviest for Bregman. Cody Bellinger with the Yankees. It's still not done. It kind of, in some ways, you would think if they really loved him and they had the money and he really wanted to be there, That one to me seems like the most obvious. It kind of should be done one.
No, the Dodgers' involvement on Bellinger and reuniting there too.
But this is what I'm saying is that there's the Mets, there's the Yankees, and the Dodgers who all seem to be circling around Cody Bellinger, and this is the musical chairs. If Bregman and Bellinger both end up in the National League, which seems like a fairly realistic thing at this point, even if only one of them, if one of them lands in the National League and you're left with 3 players, to me, you've got those guys all getting chased by 2 teams being the Yankees and the Red Sox. And that's where I started to get scared of the Bo thing because, listen, I've said all along I want Bo Bichette back. I think that the strategy of waiting on Kyle Tucker, if you miss on Bo, is too devastating that I would actually almost want to play it safer and make sure that you get Bo over playing the game for Kyle Tucker, especially since you've gotten bit in the ass a couple of times with these major guys, the top-end guys.
It's different now.
Yeah, it is, but we'll see also. Like, I do want to see it actually happen.
I mean, they blew Dylan Cease out of the
water.
Yeah,
but they've gotten the starting pitchers before, and, like, I am a little bit more confident with that kind of stuff. And they also paid Dylan Cease to, like,
We'll see, though. We haven't seen Framber Valdez sign yet, right?
Right, but I'm just saying they did give
Ranger Suarez.
Dylan Cease $210 million. And
maybe that's the going rate. We don't know.
Maybe.
And it's the deferral's it's $26 million, right? It's a paltry sum.
Yeah, he's poor.
Yeah.
How will he be able to afford his discs?
Yeah.
That's why he retired, actually. He was on my show.
I saw that clip. So he, like me, understands the risks of disc golf.
He did. I should have told. I can't believe I blew that opportunity to be like, yeah, I actually have a buddy who shattered his ankle playing disc golf.
I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, you should stay off the courses. This is actually good for everyone. Yeah, my palms sweat a little bit thinking about Bo Bichette in pinstripes or in, Red Sox uniform playing third base.
Yeah. Oh, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's a distinct possibility. Now, yeah, I don't know. It doesn't feel like he's number one priority for either of those teams either.
But that's what I'm saying about the musical chairs.
Yeah.
That as of this moment, I'm not really fretting about it. But when I read the Bregman report, I'm like weirdly rooting for the Red Sox to sign Alex Bregman.
Yeah. Doesn't it feel, though, like who's in on Tucker? Like, I
know.
It just feels like the Dodgers
are.
No, I disagree.
Okay.
It really does. I'm buying what they're selling of like, hey, I know we got $1 billion in deferrals. We actually need to start putting some of our money into the now right now. So like if you want a big short-term deal, we can do that for you. I mean, he's going to get $400 million. Probably not willing to take a pillow contract.
You know what my theory is there?
What?
Is, again, completely uninformed rantings of a lunatic. But I like to put the pieces together. I'm Charlie in the mailroom with I think the Dodgers are very, very, very much the favorites for Tarek Skubal.
Yeah.
And that they want to break baseball and that this could get to the Kevin Durant point where people actually start to tilt and go, okay, now it sort of feels a little unfair and it potentially has a resonating impact to the amount of deferrals you're allowed to do and the amount of contracts you're allowed to have, that they're not going to have a salary cap, but that there will be some kind of added mechanism in baseball that will make it feel more so like there is one. That if they get Tarek Skubal, they're not renting him.
But it's Scott Boras, and you like there's only one example of the guy that didn't reach free agency, and that was Strasburg, and it's because he knew his arm was about to explode.
I'm just saying that I'm not saying they would acquire him and immediately re-sign him.
Yeah.
But they would be doing it with the thought in mind of we're acquiring him, and if he's still a stud this year, which he very well likely will be, that they'll be his top suitor in free agency and go, like we can have the best staff in baseball guaranteed locked up for multiple years. And that if Tarek Skubal was to move somewhere else, that's where I would go and look at it and say, maybe they do sign Kyle Tucker and just say, you know what, we couldn't get in on this and now it's too risky. No, you don't buy that at all?
No.
There's so much smoke around them in Tarek Skubal, though.
Yeah. No, I think that's happening.
Yeah.
Oh, I buy that because, it makes sense. They have this incredible farm system and, like, they have the actual major league assets you could just give up.
And there's also the Tyler Glasnow clip that when that went out there.
But he said they told him they weren't trading him.
Yeah, but that's my point, is that now feels
kiss of death.
It just feels so much like we're playing that, like the internet will have that forever.
Yeah.
On Tyler Glasnow, where he's like, and they told me that I'm not going anywhere, and then he's going to be traded. And
yeah. No, that one I buy for sure. Turk Skubal moving to the Dodgers and them giving up assets for that. But I am also buying the idea that they're on the periphery of the Kyle Tucker of it all, waiting for him to fall into their lap, despite him being the top free agent.
But if you're Kyle Tucker too, right, and your market doesn't materialize, right?
I think it's materializing. It feels like it's not materializing. We just said that one of the big spenders is prioritizing him. The Blue Jays are prioritizing him.
No doubt. But that the Blue Jays are prioritizing him. But if he looks at it ultimately and that their version of the priority is $325 million.
Again, a paltry sum.
Just how could you live on that?
A pittance.
Who was the guy that said he needed to feed his family? Wasn't it Pilar, actually? There's a few guys that were like, I got to feed my family. You're like, all right. Seems a little over the top, but sure. Yeah, if he's looking at it and saying, you know what, the Dodgers are offering all these deferrals, and yeah, it's fake money, but I get to save a little face because the number's a little higher, and I get to go play for the Dodgers, and I get to go win.
You know he doesn't want the smoke, too, right?
Yeah, you don't get any smoke in L.A. What's the risk? The only guy that ever had risk there is Clayton Kershaw.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the choker narrative. It was him and Dave Roberts. Who else who has felt pressure there? I guess Shohei had pressure immediately for it to work out, and then it did, and now it's off of him.
Yeah, and now he's performed. Yeah.
Like, do you think Freddie Freeman has pressure? Like, he's going out there, and they're like, oh, Freddie no, he's good. He's going to be a Hall of Famer and one of the most liked guys in baseball.
I buy the reports that they're not spendthrift, okay? Don't get me wrong here, but that they are waiting, that actually deferring stuff is $1 billion is what they owe their players in deferrals, that they're probably like don't want to add to that $1 billion total.
It doesn't seem like they care. And I see that Andrew Friedman thing where he goes, let's be pigs, and they want to be greedy and keep going after wins. And if you gave Shohei all that deferral money, right? And of course that bill's going to come due eventually. Yeah. And you've got aged Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts who's getting up there in age. I just don't think it's that crazy to think that they would go after a guy like that.
Maybe. I'm just taking the reports and I think they've been uniformly of the again, my characterization of the reports I've seen is that they're not out on Kyle Tucker, but they're not as in as they've been on a Shohei Ohtani.
No, it's not a thing where they're going week to week to each other's spring facilities and getting the hats, and both teams are going, we're coming up in the number. It feels like everybody's probably keeping their concrete spot on him right now. That's why he's waiting it out, is he thinks the number is going to go up, and right now it's not with anybody.
Yeah, but the Yankees are out. Doesn't feel like they're hot.
See, I'm not buying that either.
They already told Joel Sherman, spread the news that he doesn't even like. He doesn't want the smoke of New York.
It's like a lot of these reports that go out there.
You will agree that it feels like they're hot and heavy to bring Cody Bellinger back.
I would say that it does feel that way, but I'm like, again, musical chairs of it all. If Cody Bellinger ends up on the New York Mets or on the Dodgers, then all of a sudden you're the Yankees and you're saying, we're really going to have an offseason where the Mets plucked off all of our guys and then Cody Bellinger left and we only had Trent Grisham return for $23 million.
And Garrett Cole, he's going to be healthy.
I'm not buying that. Like, I refuse to believe that the Yankees will sit on their hands in that way. And that, okay, they have some stuff to trade, but they're not in the position that, say, the Red Sox are in, where I look at it and go, all right, if they missed out on Bregman, maybe they would be in on Ketel Marte because they've got the pitching prospects to be able to get that done. The Yankees are in a unique spot where I look at them and say, I doubt heavily that they are going to go through an offseason where they do not sign a name and have it just be like, hey, guys, we're poor and we're wasting. Aaron Judge just won the MVP when a catcher hit 60 home runs. Mm-hmm. You can't screw with that. You can't just throw that away. So, no, I'm scared of the Yankees. And I was going to say, I had Jim Bowden on last week, and he mentioned how sometimes it's the teams that are quiet that are the ones that you got to look out for.
Silent assassins.
Yeah.
That was before he said, if you don't like what the Dodgers are doing, just become a fan.
Yeah, that was tough. I didn't really agree with that. Did not see the...
Yeah.
Hey, if you hate them so much, be their fan. It's not a realistic fan line that you draw.
No, it comes from somebody who's maybe never been a fan of a
or it's been a while.
Team before. And
yeah,
that's not how that works, man. Yeah. Like, that's not it at all.
See, that's the one good thing when people say, hey, you never played the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hey, you never were a fan.
Yeah. Or no, if you were a fan, but you never stayed in touch with those roots.
Yeah.
It's harder for you to relate to what the common person on the ground is doing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm limited in my knowledge of every sport.
Oh, yeah.
But that I feel pretty confident. Okay, speaking of being fans, this is a good segue.
Oh.
I want to talk about Kevin Durant, who was on Fred VanVleet's podcast yesterday.
Yes.
And I think has permanently shaped Raptors fan narratives moving forward. That's next. Ben just asked me if I'm doing Leafs Talk tonight, and yes, I am doing Leafs Talk, which means it's Leafs game day. Score a Popeye's chicken sandwich for only $6 in classic or spicy. Make it your new game day tradition. Get your $6 sandwich at a Popeye's near you. So I'm not the biggest fan of player pods. I've made this pretty clear.
Other than the Kachuk Brothers podcast, which you are a daily listener to.
I'm not. I like when I see, for example, and I'm not trying to hate. When I see New Heights, I don't understand the sports fan that's listening to that.
They don't need you, by the way. They're fine.
They don't. That's why it's fine.
They're fine. They're doing okay.
Doing great. But I do wonder when I see some of it, I go, really?
Mm-hmm.
So you love sports, but this?
Would you say that the majority of their listeners are sports
I don't know.
fans?
It's on the sports page, and they're two athletes talking about sports.
Yeah, but have you actually listened to an episode? It's actually mostly not sports.
Okay. I just see sometimes the clips, and I go, all right. And I will say, too, the other thing that I'm kind of annoyed with player pods is not that I think that they're terrible or that they're occupying a space that they shouldn't. It's that Travis Kelce ducks the media after 2 Kansas City losses and then goes on his podcast 3 days later and shapes it the way that he wants. I don't like that. And Draymond Green has done this in the past as well. Mm-hmm. Not a huge fan of that. I listened to Fred VanVleet's podcast with Kevin Durant, and it was incredible.
Yeah.
Truly, Fred is great on it. For a guy that's hosting his first show and asking questions, it was solid. It was a very good job by him. But Durant, if Durant wants it, I think he would be the next monster in meat. Everyone always points to Draymond, right? They go, Draymond, he'll be the next Charles Barkley. It's not Draymond. It's Kevin Durant. You can disagree with a lot of what he says, and he probably pisses still so many people off because he refuses to even acknowledge the going to Golden State thing as even understandable for anybody else who would be frustrated by it or people who diminish the rings, whatever it is. I personally find him to be very compelling, very interesting, very thoughtful, very well-spoken, and he's his own man.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem guided in any way by the whims of the internet. He stands 10 toes down and goes, and one toe a little too long, cross the line, on the ways that he feels about the game and the way he sees the game. It's excellent. He's a real, true blue hooper who loves basketball and cares about other people and pays attention to the league. He's awesome. He spoke about, him and Fred were going back and forth talking about the 2019 finals, and it was really fun, really great to go back and relive that through their eyes. And they spoke about when Durant went down with the injury and the reaction of the crowd cheering for when he got injured, and this is what Durant had to say.
Organization, a city, franchise who never won ones, because people ask me all the time how I feel about them cheering and shit. I'm like, come on, man, it's supposed to go down like that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't feel right if they didn't, because that's how good I am.
It's a sign of respect.
That part, no, for
it's
sure.
It's up in the moment, but it's ultimately a sign of respect. All right, cool, we can breathe. You know what I'm saying? Especially because you came out so hot.
Scorching, and they was like, oh, this dude really might be back. That first 4 minutes, first 4 shots that I hit, guarantee everybody on our bench, everybody in that arena was like, damn, this might go 7.
I love that.
Correct, by the way.
So correct. But this is why this now changes the future of any conversation about that moment. Mm-hmm. Because I don't want to say it's a scarlet letter for the city of Toronto, but it is something you would say is an easy way to weaponize against Raptors and Toronto fans, right? Is, hey, you cheered the Durant injury. Yeah. Because there's not too many examples of a superstar player getting hurt in an opponent's gym during a finals and seeing the way that a crowd reacted to it. Mm-hmm. But he said it. It was. It's a sign of respect, and the people rooted for it. I know we did this at the time, and this is such a weird revisionist history thing to be kind of bringing up randomly right before Christmas 2025. But there was this whole thing of, hey, nobody was cheering for him to get hurt. We were just exhilarated by the moment because you thought maybe you could win a championship, and he gets it. So if Kevin Durant can understand that, and he actually views it as a badge of honor, I can't imagine anybody ever again bringing that up and saying, hey, Raptors fans cheered an injury, they're bad people.
You know why, though? Because he's a sports fan. And
yeah.
Like we just talked about the
he watches the NFL.
Gym, he's a real Commanders fan. Like, he is a fan of sports. Talked about the Jim Bowden of it all and not understanding what it is to be a sports fan. And maybe somebody that wears the C that plays for the most notable franchise in the city, maybe not understanding what it's like to be a sports fan and the sensibilities that come with that and what people are anticipating and wanting and where their mindset is when they react certain ways, understanding it all what that's about. He gets it. It's nothing personal.
Yeah. So this also led me down thinking about, again, because everything is about the city of Toronto, and that mostly comes down to the Maple Leafs, right? In terms of the way that this city is viewed, the Raptors fans get their toxic reputation for two things. One was the cheering of Kevin Durant's injury, but the other one is being hypersensitive online to anything they view as a slight.
Sure.
Right? Some of that I actually think is based in merit. Some of it I think is drastically over the top, and that people here still do seem to care too much about what the driving narratives in the United States are. Are the Raptors neglected? Absolutely. But should it be the world's biggest thing? No, I just don't think so. Same thing happens in the NFL, by the way, with West Coast teams.
Yeah.
Like, a West Coast team being great hardly ever gets spoken about the way that it ends up being about the New York Jets, who are trash.
Sure.
Just a byproduct of the way that things operate. The Raptors happen to be East Coast, but they're a Canadian team.
Yep.
They don't generate the same amount of views or interest south of the border. So what happens? So I get why people get upset, but overall, they overdo it. Maple Leaf fans are the number one in terms of you drive the player out of town. Like, don't be negative. There's this underlying feeling with the fan base and the city of, if you are upset about the way things are going and you are upset about the players and you are holding them to account, that in some way you are participating in why they are losing, right?
Yeah, for sure.
That you are part of the reason. The media discussing it, I get it all the time. Talk about reading or seeing some of the comments. Whenever I do anything on the Leafs that is remotely perceived as negative.
They won the game on Tuesday, okay?
Exactly right.
What do you want?
And to some people,
Auston Matthews scored. He was like, I'm saving it. My one shot going to go to the back of the net to tie the game in the third period.
Right. So you're never going to be able to satiate everybody.
Yeah.
Right? Like, because everyone's going to watch these things through a different lens and through a different feel. But my sense has always been, because I've felt it personally, and I know I used to joke with Michael Grange because he wrote this Leafs book, and one of the chapters in the book for why the Leafs have not won was the fans. So, and I remember telling him, like, I hate that you put this in there. I hate that the fans are held complicit in this. Is it harder to win in this place? Absolutely. But other impossibly difficult markets have won in every other sport. So the idea that this would be somehow materially different than a Yankees fan, to me, or a Red Sox fan, is nuts.
2004. They managed to figure it out.
What do you think Red Sox, this gets left out of the documentaries of the Red Sox comebacks against the Yankees, right? What do you think fans were saying in that moment when they were down 3-1?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
What Dan Shaughnessy said. You think Dan Shaughnessy was like on an island?
Yeah, like he wrote that and people were like, Dan.
Don't be so negative.
Yeah. What was it? A pack of frauds?
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Anyway.
Yeah, frauds. Definitely the word fraud.
Yeah, but I just think that Kevin Durant, the reason why I appreciate this kind of stuff and why I think that it's important that he ends up doing more media moving forward and that this stuff is so great, is he does seem to understand sports fandom. And a lot of the coverage when it comes to player pods, it has such an absent feel for the way people react to stuff. Like, when I think about Matthews the other night doing the thing, I wasn't bothered by that. I went, like, there was a part of me right away that went, oh, really? Are you doing that when you've been terrible all game? Mm-hmm. And then the other side goes like, yeah, whatever, man. He needs to show some flair. He needs to show some attitude. I'm not going to be overly critical of him doing that. I'm more in the camp of, I like it. We want to see more personality from you. We want to see more of an edge to your play, even if that is maybe misguided. But I do think that with that Leafs team and with many sports teams, and like you see this across the NBA with the way that some of these ejections happen, blah, 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 there is a complete disconnect between the athletes and the people who pay to watch them play. And it's a growing divide. And so having a guy with all the accolades, like a Kevin Durant, because Barkley always took up that mantle, right? He's always done the thing about, hey, we don't have a hard job, the nurses have a hard job. Like, he's had that spiel a billion times. You've always heard it from him. Having a guy like Kevin Durant go out there and say stuff like, I understand why the fans would boo me, and doesn't take it personal and doesn't say something like, yeah, that's horrible behavior by people like,
I'm a human being.
Correct.
Haven't you thought about whether I'll be able to walk with my torn Achilles? That will take like a year to
that me with the world's greatest medical staffs moving forward. Yeah, man.
No, and we've talked about this a lot, you and I, whether it be on air or privately, about how the professionalization of these people at such a young age takes them out of their fandom so
right away.
Early.
Yeah, because it turns into a job early on for these kids.
But Kevin Durant is the guy that breaks the mold, because you don't think the 7-footer
he talks about it on that podcast about how Fred asked him a question like, there wasn't really anybody, because I just shot over top of everybody by the time I was like 15 years old. I was getting buckets everywhere. Like,
no kidding. Yeah.
Hard for me to compare myself to people. And you're like,
not a first overall selection, but got it.
Should have been.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. Anyways, but that he can still have his sports fandom and understand it. There's no excuse for anybody else. And I was having this conversation with somebody earlier today as well. Like, it is hard to imagine somebody doing the things that is required of you to reach the heights of professional sports without the motivating factor being like, sports fandom, like seeing that done and the passion I felt for that, wanting to do that. But I just look at the proof in the pudding here, and it can't be that. I am heartened by the Kevin Durants of the world that have that. And for Barkley, like, still a sports fan, right? Like, is the hockey stuff like overdone? But I think he actually watches sports and cares.
He definitely cares because he gambles on them all. So he's deeply invested. But I think with Barkley is he is now disappearing from the public eye. That the TNT move and the spread to, like, I see way more of the Amazon guys now. Like, I see way more Blake Griffin than I see Charles Barkley.
It's a great panel too.
It is a great panel. And they're offering
Nash.
A good perspective. Yeah, Nash is good. I've really liked some Dirk stuff that he's done. Like, there's a lot of good commentators right now on the NBA. And there's some not so good ones, as is. But I'm saying, in terms of the guy that's picking up the mantle of, I have the bona fide accolades, but not just viewed as a pure hater. Like, I love Shaq, but when he speaks on players now, it's through this lens of always like he had a take once where he was like, only 3 guys now could play in my era. And you go, okay.
Right.
You kind of make it tough to take this seriously when you do this stuff, when you're critical of other guys. It feels more targeted. With Durant, I think there's a respect for what the players do. There's a respect for players that come before him. There's an understanding with fandom. And so this was just kind of a more general way to say, I really hope that he becomes basically what the NFL is kind of hoping with Tom Brady in a way, but to a more blown out capacity where he's not just doing games, that he's on a panel somewhere someday doing this kind of stuff, because he's excellent.
Yeah, and it's never about money for any of these guys.
He's unbelievably rich. Think Tom Brady needed that cash?
No, these guys want to stay in it, and it's a lot easier than having to work out every day and go to the gym and just shooting from the hip.
I think he'd be my number one choice across all professional sports.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right, because of the thing, like, cares about sports in a way that is digestible and relatable. Like, who'd have thunk Kevin Durant, 7 foot tall, greatest scorer in NBA history, is the most relatable athlete in maybe all of pro sports?
Yeah, I love it. I've completely come around. Huge fan. Anyway, got to take a break. We'll come back, and I got stuff with Justin Bourne. That's next. Justin Bourne of Real Kipper and Bourne, the Bourne part of the show. Leafs Regionals, writer for Sportsnet, author of books, holiday season. You should probably buy his book. He joins me now. What's up, buddy? How are we doing?
I'm good. I like your sweatshirt.
Thank you. I know I sent you the topics, but I'm actually going to spring one on you if that's all right.
I can survive that.
I think it's in your wheelhouse, though, so it's not going to be like drastically inappropriate in terms of you going, well, of course I have no answer. I'm not prepared. So my brother sent me this clip last night that I woke up to this morning, and it's Kirk Cousins, the quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons. And it's a media member that's asking him a question about progressions versus coverage reads. That being like, hey, as a quarterback, times you had to learn to look for what the coverage was and decide what you were doing pre-snap, versus progression reads of ball is snapped, you don't identify the coverage, and you have to go and work through your progressions to be able to get something done. Yeah. Kirk Cousins gives this 2.5 to 3 minute answer, articulating the development throughout his career succinctly, but also from an interesting standpoint about how he has evolved as a playmaker and how defenses changed in order to make it more difficult for there to be coverage reads because of the way that he disguised safeties, and that he had to start to trust himself, but it also helped him evolve as a player who didn't have as much anxiety doing film work beforehand, trying to figure out what those coverage reads were going to be when he didn't have a clue, that it helped him evolve into a more confident player. And I watched this clip, and I loved it. And this is content that you and I love, right? Which is athletes explaining what it is that they do for a living in a digestible way for fans to consume that is not only interesting, but treats them, it's like you talking to your kid, right? You know way more than your kid. Like, you know, it will take him literally decades to get to a place of understanding that you have as a grown adult. But one of the more effective ways with kids, and one of the things that they're looking for, is to be kind of treated like adults, right? To be spoken to in a way that is respectful. It isn't just doing the baby voice at some point in their lives. And I think sports fans are similar in a way where they go, yeah, I would actually like to know some of this stuff. Not everybody. Some people want different cups of tea, but a lot of people want to actually be brought into a thing and understand it with more clarity and get it from like a current player like this who can actually tell them what they're going through. And football, this is such a long answer. I'm going to get killed for a question. This is such a long, I'm going to get killed for this. But football is easier to do this with from the standpoint of everything is one play. People play Madden football. They watch a lot of the NFL. They play fantasy. I think there's just at least a bit more of an easy understanding of a progression read for a quarterback than, say, even a set play for a hockey player, which happens only a few times in a hockey game, right?
Yeah.
But do you think hockey, like as someone who does film breakdown, who did it for a living, who had to be able to explain the way that you saw things to players and to coaching staffs and the way that coaches try to explain things to players, that hockey is a sport that could ever get to a place in which you can improve that element of it? Or maybe the question actually is, how would you try and do this? How would you try to make things more digestible so that when we're watching this game that's so free-flowing, that does not have a lot of set plays, that is kind of difficult to have a common through line in terms of what happened in a hockey game and the way to explain it, that there is a better way of doing this?
Yeah, I first off, I think it's something that I think about a lot as someone asking questions of really smart hockey people on our show. And it's something I think I need to get better at. First, I'll say it's person dependent and personality dependent. Because the fact of the matter is, some guys are not as talented in the NHL, but they're super smart and they think their way through whether, you know, that's whatever their version of NHL progressions are. Some guys are low talent, high IQ, and some guys are just high talent, low IQ. And they're there because they're, you know, to use a name we followed for years, Pierre Engvall, who's a smart person, but as a hockey guy, he's just toolsy. He's fast. He can shoot it hard. He's big. If you asked him about what he's seeing out there, he's like, I'm just going for it, man.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just playing. But I think so you have to have the right type of person who is thoughtful. I would assume all quarterbacks, or most quarterbacks at least, would have to be more thoughtful. There's
not Jackson
a lot
Dart, but yes, most.
Yeah, okay. But in general, there's a lot of processing with these guys. So they're going to be the exception position-wise. I don't know that we have that in hockey. Maybe power play quarterbacks. Could you ask Cale Makar, Quinn Hughes, you know, could you go through those guys in the league and have some sort of series where you say, what are you seeing? What are you trying to make the defense do? What is your process? Because I think in offense with hockey, we don't really tell the guys what to do very often. Typically, it's here's how I want you to play defensively. Here's your defensive structure. And then when you're coaching, you're saying, here's what the other team does. Here's their penalty kill formation. Here's their neutral zone forecheck. And then you just kind of say, good luck. Like we kind of leave it in the hands of the offensive player. So I think in theory, we should be able to get more unique answers from hockey guys who are seeing it their own way and finding their way through some of these things. The problem with hockey in terms of what you're talking about here is that so much more of it is taking what is given to you, because you can have a plan, but if someone is 3 feet out of position, now there's a bigger lane over here and what I wanted to do isn't there. And so there is a lot more sort of freestyling. And, I've talked about Auston Matthews on our show over this past week and said that he seems to be playing within the game. It's happening around him. He's a part of it. He's involved in it. But the best players, only the very few best, are actually dictating to defenses what to do and making the game chase them and try to keep up with McDavid as he's pulling there's a wake behind him of players trying to figure out what he's doing. In general, it's rare that an offensive player dictates it to the defense. Typically, it's a lot of reacting to what you're given. So I think when you put a mic in a guy's face and say, well, what's your plan? It's like, take whatever's there,
Yeah, but you do end up with a lot of those mundane answers. And to your Matthews point, I heard somebody the other day describe it as he's blended into too many games this season.
Yeah.
And I think that's the perfect way of putting it is he's out there. Sometimes you notice him, but certainly in terms of dictating
you
play.
very rarely go, well, that was bad. But you just don't ever go, well, that was great.
No, you very rarely go, like they played the Oilers the other night, and McDavid just has multiple shifts where he completely takes over. And I think set the pace of the hockey game, like the style of play in the third period that shifted. It's a lot of it is McDavid. And all of a sudden the Leafs are trying to play their style of game, and McDavid's going, exactly, yes, this is what I want. I have dictated this. But yeah, I think that we have this thing where hockey players are often criticized for giving very boring answers. I do, as someone who does this for a living, wonders if I'm asking the right questions or if other people are asking the right questions. But this kind of came up from this clip, but also there's a conversation right now with the Leafs, right, about puck possession. You go, they need to improve their puck possession. And it's funny because optically, you've got a head coach who just wants to get the puck out and who wants to dump the puck in. So people look at that strategy and they say, well, he doesn't want puck possession. And yet when you hear the coach speak, what is one of the very first things that he usually says they need more of?
Yeah, the puck.
Right. And so I think most people generally understand they want to be able to dump it in. They want to chase it. They want to be able to cycle. And those things are all fair. But
he wants to get it back.
Yeah, but that kind of gap in terms of what the actual strategy is and how some of the decisions get made in terms of the personnel, to me, there is a gap between the questions that are being asked, for sure. Like, this isn't just on the hockey players and the coaching staffs, but also a gap in terms of the trust I think this sport has in giving it back to people to open up a little bit and try to say, like, hey, this is actually what we're actively thinking beyond just, it's just a free-flowing game where things happen and bounces go against you.
Did you see Fred Van Vliet on Hello and Welcome there with Alex and Will?
Yeah, of course. It was great.
Yeah, you need a sparring partner. Like, you need a interview subject who likes the person asking the question and wants to give them sincere answers. I think that Freddie's not in this market anymore. He's freed up a little bit more. I think the NBA culture with all their player podcasts now is way more supportive of getting, like, these guys are almost competing with one another to tell the cooler truth, the cooler story or whatever. So, maybe Wingman is the start of that with the Kachuk brothers in hockey. I don't know. But I do think that in our market in particular, here in Toronto, the volume is so great. It's not that anyone is more critical. It's just that there's more voices and more people asking questions, that the last thing these guys want to do is say something interesting, because then they have to answer it from everyone. So every interview they enter with, like a politician, how do I get out of this without having said something interesting? I bet, JD, if you ran your show out of Columbus and you got a player on once a week, you'd have a better chance of getting them to say something that is what you're looking for.
Yeah, it's actually why I asked for Troy Stetcher last week. And I don't normally ask for players, but here's a guy who spoke candidly during a intermission interview. And that sparked my interest because I watch hockey almost every night in some capacity or another. I have never once stuck with a intermission interview and gone, I have to hear what this guy has to say here.
Yeah.
Like, never. So he gave something, and I went, okay, here's someone who might be willing to open up a little bit and who has something to say on some topics that are outside of the like day-to-day granular that has come with a group that has been together for forever and is basically used to the ebbs and flows of whatever narrative it is around the team and has probably answered some variation of the exact same questions now for over 8 seasons. So I was interested in doing it, and he did a good job, and I actually had a good time. Like, I was proud to put that interview out rather than I've had some athlete interviews with current guys where I've gone, I don't even want to put that on the podcast feed.
Wish I hadn't done that.
Yeah, like that was a waste of everybody's time, and now I feel bad about myself. You probably feel nothing, and the audience didn't get a lick out of it. So, just it's going to be something that I think about a little bit more moving forward, just based off of that one clip that, maybe just a bit better of a job in terms of thinking about better ways to try to communicate or get out of people things that can make you a bit smarter. And I do think you make great content that way. Like, you've always done video breakdowns. I remember even still when you were at The Athletic and talking to you about how much potential I think something like this had for hockey. But I think that there's an even greater thing that can happen, but it involves now the guys who are actively involved in these NHL games telling you some of what they're seeing in a way that makes it more understandable to fans.
You know what's funny too, Bunk, is like there's so few platforms for those guys who want to talk like that. Really want to talk hockey in particular, because let's say the average hockey fan isn't going to understand or whatever. Like when I have hockey conversations, and I go to sitting at a pub or something, you hear someone go, that guy sucks or whatever.
Yeah.
I know that that's not a person I can go, well, actually, like their possession numbers when he's out there are good. And that's because when they play against a 1-2-1 forecheck, in the neutral zone, I'm not as pointless. I just go, yeah, he sucks. And I shut down. You know that about me. I don't, it's not worth my time.
Versus me where I go, yeah, he sucks, but I mean it.
Yeah. I see a lot of players enter into interviews where they're like, you're not going to get this anyway, so I'm not going to bother.
Yeah, but to your point about the platform issue, that's kind of not involved here because this is Kirk Cousins at a podium speaking to the greater media in a media
giving
conference.
People credit that they're going to get it, and if they don't get it, too bad. This one's not for you. I agree, it's great.
Exactly right. So it would be cool if some of these players started to take these answers, took the questions that they get if they are a good one a little bit more seriously. Not all the time. I get it. There's going to be a lot of the mundane. Yeah. But that there is a real value in this in terms of connecting to the fans, because this brings me to the Matthews of it all, because you meant, like, we talk about him blending into games. I really believe that his lack of transparency with the injury stuff has actually now hurt him, because at one, like his theory, I'm guessing, because again, he won't tell anyone, is, and from what I've heard from people, and I know you've heard the same stuff, is that early on in his career when he suffered a wrist injury, he felt as though that information got out and that he was targeted as a young player. And he's hypersensitive to that now moving forward. He doesn't want anybody to know. And some people are just in general more private with their medicals, but I think that this has seeped into just the Maple Leafs organization as something that has become more of a blanket policy where they don't want to give you a lot of information. But with Matthews in particular, there's an added frustration of you come out of an offseason where it's supposed to be an FU year because Marner left and he's supposed to be healthy, and he still doesn't quite look right. All the numbers across the board are down, right? Like, go find me the Matthews number that is up. There isn't. But some of it you look at and say, well, he's not shooting the puck as hard and he's not skating as fast and he's not having those bursts as often in which he does skate fast. So is he permanently changed? Does he have some sort of an injury? The murkiness around it now creates this thing where he both is not getting really an excuse, but then the people who try to excuse it are even more frustrating for doing so in the absence of the information. And it's kind of tied into the same conversation about the transparency about what you're seeing and how you're playing, which is that you get a fan base that feels very much on the outside of everything and has to guess about literally every piece of the game that they can't just consume with their own eyeballs.
Totally. And, I think there's this thing with Matthews too, where it's almost like he's trying to get points for no excuses. Where he's like, he's not going to tell you anything. I'm healthy. And it's like, well, you're either visibly not or something else is up. So if it's not that you're injured, that's fine. But like, let's acknowledge that it's not going good here and that it looks different and feels different. And maybe we can get to why that is in some capacity. So yeah, there's a lot of frustration. I look at Elias Pettersson, it all kind of shut down for him. He had like a random, he had his awesome year and then it wasn't there for him, but he didn't have the sustained greatness that Matthews did. I'm not trying to compare myself to these guys at all. I can only draw on my own hockey experience. I had 4 college seasons. My second season, I led the team in goals and was pretty, had a good year and was kind of like, Bourne's coming back year 3. Let's see what he's got. That summer, I partied a lot. I went out. I didn't go to the gym. I got pulled over and I blew below the limit, but I was ticketed for a DUI. It was like, as soon as my school year started, I went through a breakup. Like it was not good off the ice. And I felt healthy all year long and I was bad. I went from 12 goals to 4, played every game, was an assistant captain, was on the power play. I just couldn't do anything well. And I don't know why. I was trying. And so I don't know. There's this part of me that's like, we have no idea about these guys' personal lives. And I don't expect to hear if that is the case, but like, it's frustrating because we're left as analysts going, something's wrong. We don't know what. And everyone fills the information vacuum with their own theories, but we just don't get anywhere.
Though, even in hearing that, I don't expect, if Auston Matthews goes through a breakup, I don't think that it's the need of the public to hear about it. Okay,
no, but it also wouldn't slow him down through the neutral zone.
No.
So
yeah, probably not. But even for him to acknowledge that it hasn't been the same, right? Like even for him to say and have a human moment where he went, I know I haven't been the same guy, and I'm searching for it, and I'm trying to figure out the same reasons as the rest of you. To me, actually, would now go a long way in the positive direction than it does the way it feels right now. Because again. Is he still a good hockey player? Absolutely. Has the standard been set in a way that is difficult to reframe it on the fly as a fan, especially as he's chasing a milestone that is a regular season milestone, but the greatest goal scorer in Maple Leafs history, while pairing that with, but you wouldn't have been if this is who you were the whole time, right? Like it's a complicated time for him, and it's during a season where they're pressing for points and they're looking for more offense and they're looking for more possession. Their power play has struggled. There's all these different confluences that have worked against him. And his reaction has been to push back even further, where it's like he's ducked media appearances. He's made, I don't want to say excuses, but he's been flippant in terms of some of the stuff with their play. Like the other night, he mentioned how he thought the team played well outside of 10 minutes of the hockey game against the Chicago Blackhawks team that they should have drubbed and they needed to come back against in the last couple of minutes. And one where he got his first shot on the goal that he scored. Yeah. And instead of taking the direction of, I'm going to push back and I'm going to throw up the ear or the hand to the ear to the crowd in terms of like a you don't know what's going on thing, that things actually could improve for him, even with the play as it currently is on the ice, if there was a little bit more humanity around the fact that things are not going great.
Yeah, I know, like, I think McKee on your show on Leafs Talk said that he doesn't think that they're like Berube, right? Like,
a lot of people think that. Like, it's
I know, but that's like we're kind of like left with what's with the general disinterest and malaise and frustration in these interviews and the way and the pace and all that. So yeah, man, it's I don't know what's going to change unless they get to a point where it's just not happening and they sit him out for a little bit and they say, okay, we got to wait for something that flared up. He looks tender. Like I watched every shift against Chicago, like sat here and went through it all. Mm-hmm. And like, he goes into these hits, like kind of stopping, pulling up, not really finishing them. There's a year he was throwing 4 times the hits he's throwing right now, having 4 times the takeaways. He got under a couple sticks where he didn't come away with the puck. And it's like, if you're this much different, that's the difference between good and great. If he's having a good year by most average player standard, but the difference is he doesn't have that little great element that he's had for so much of his career.
Yeah, and I will say I do empathize with that part of it, the don't want to make excuse piece, because that's real.
He doesn't want to come out there and be like, it's just kind of every day it hurts a bit. We'd all be like, buck up.
Yes.
But
that's what I'm saying is if you're not going to play the excuse play in terms of things haven't been right or I'm not 100%, I think it still behooves you to be able to acknowledge like, hey, I'm not going as great. I need to be better. And that's why the other day I was watching your show and you made this great point about when the leadership group was called out, that he still made it about the collective rather than just taking the responsibility onto himself and saying, I do need to be better. I do need to be more focused on the details. I haven't been shooting the puck enough. Even if some of these things are being said in a way where he doesn't fully believe it, that giving some type of acknowledgement that it is him rather than just it's our group, it's our team, it's a Dakota Joshua issue as much as it is an Auston Matthews issue. That's the infuriating part of what I see right now.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt. And I think that's an easy fix. And I think that's something the PR department can say, hey, man, if you don't start lighting it up here soon, we're just going to have to acknowledge that like it's substandard right now and you got more to give.
So this is my last Matthews question. If this is who he is, though, right? Because to me, there's this weird scenario that could play out where he goes to the Olympics and he looks amazing. And then that's the worst thing that could happen to Craig Berube, right?
Oh, yeah, but the best thing that could happen to Leafs fans be like, aha, it's
kind of. But
you want to see it, Bunk. You'd love to know it still exists.
Yes and no, because he would be doing it potentially against Canada in this situation, which I do not want. And also, if he is showing amazing Matthews and it's in there, you're right. It's overall a net positive. But it would be pretty frustrating to think like, hey, were you dialing it back to make sure that you were healthy for the United States and that you weren't
he can't win at the Olympics.
No, he can't. He's in a very, very difficult spot. But then it would be 2 years in a row too, right? Where it's like he missed a lot of time. He came back for the Olympics. He did play his best hockey. Then he sort of dwindled. We did the whole conversation about, well, he's amazing defensively. He doesn't get enough credit for that. And now this year, even the defensive numbers have slipped for him. And you go, oh, that's interesting. But yeah, if he is this guy, right? Like if you don't get that Olympics where he just pops and looks amazing and it's the whole season or how does this, if say, let's play in a scenario here where the Leafs are kind of what they are now, where, or something more to the recent history where they're winning actually a bunch of games, but a lot are in overtime. They're in and out of a playoff position, but they're never leading the division, obviously. And you're fine. You're one of the meaty middle of everyone being mediocre in the East, but you as an organization know you're not getting Auston Matthews prime at all. And in fact, you're getting this version for the rest of the year. How much do you think that should impact Brad Treliving's decision-making when it comes to the deadline? And I'm not talking about adding. I'm talking about potentially going, all right, well, maybe we do the soft sell.
You know, I have the utmost respect, and I probably reference it too much in my analysis, but Doug Armstrong was the GM of the St. Louis Blues in 2019 when they won the Cup. And I want to say at the deadline, they traded Kevin Shattenkirk away. I got to look into that exactly. The year before, they were a Stanley Cup contender, and they traded Stastny away. They didn't see themselves in St. Louis as an organization that attracts free agents and couldn't afford to let great players leave for nothing. And so even though they were contenders, he traded these guys and they got assets back. And the one year they won the Cup anyway. And it was just like, wow, that took like real chutzpah to make those moves. And I don't think they got it here in Toronto. I don't think they have the onions to do it, Bunk. Like if they were a near playoff team, fringy, and they went, boy, Scott Lawton could really help a playoff team. We just, we could recoup some of that. Brandon Carlo, we could recoup some of that. Who wants Lorentz, Joshua? They could all of a sudden, if they said, we're not going to win a cup, let's see what we can get for all these guys. There's so few sellers and so many buyers. You could get a haul. And then, the New York Islanders just did this with flipping Dobson, where you flipped Dobson for 2 first-round picks, and now all of a sudden you got 2 bright young prospects on the way after also winning the lottery, and it feels like everything's fixed. It's like we got guys on the way. We're okay. It would be the best thing for the Leafs if they don't get better, and it still looks like this in March. It would be the best thing for them. I don't think there's any chance they'd ever do it.
That's crushing to me because I agree.
We would just watch them bring those guys to UFA, either make or miss playoffs, losing the first round or not.
So
that would be that.
For me, weirdly, Lawton, I wouldn't be looking to move because I'm thinking they should re-sign him. But for
Tots.
Yeah, but a guy like Oliver Ekman-Larsson, who is having a really good season, who has playoff pedigree, brings some offense, and is long in the tooth, and you could probably flip for something. The idea that you wouldn't be soliciting offers, even if you are in, let's say, one of those wild card positions, and the team feels very mediocre, that would be upsetting to me because the thing that you don't want to be is in the middle. So for a fan that is of the position, like, you just got to win and get in, and maybe you get the bounces, and maybe you get the goaltending, and maybe you get to this, I would go, yeah, all right, there's a case obviously to be made for that. But I spent so many seasons in the early 2000s watching the Leafs where they were right around the playoffs, but not low enough in the lottery, and they held on to assets that they should have probably moved off of. They didn't get anything back. They didn't have great draft pick capital. They didn't have a great farm system. The amount of pieces that they have where we just focus in on, everyone knows two names in Easton Cowan and Ben Danford, and no one can tell you who the third guy is. And no one can tell you how many draft picks they have because the consensus answer is not many. Mm-hmm. I would just be trying to reset. I have a hard time seeing a scenario where the reset option is not what is going to be best for them moving forward. And if Matthews turns it on and he becomes Auston Matthews prime, that changes the equation because all of a sudden you have one of the best players in the conference on your team in a flat East. But the premise I have here is that if he looks like the same guy, it's such an important domino in all of this that I don't think they have enough with the rest that it can overcome a loss like that.
It's funny because, like, they are in the middle right now. They look pretty average, right? And Matthews has been pretty bad. So if he's a little bit better, I do think we're quick to flip away. Oh, Tanev and Carlo, well, next man up. It's like, well, no, those are supposed to be impactful players for them on the back end. You know, those are shutdown defenders that are supposed to protect their goaltending. So, you know, those guys come back and Matthews is a bit better. Can you separate yourself enough to get into the sort of home ice playoff teams and then say, what if we added and start having fun? Maybe.
Yep.
But that's all like best case scenario. And it has to happen by like the end of January for it to be, you know, something you're taking seriously. If it doesn't, end of January, by the way, is 5 weeks away.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, then I don't see any world where it's not the best thing to say, we're not rebuilding. We're not shutting it down. Like, we think Matthew, we're going to shut Matthews down as part of this, but yeah, we're going to trade a few pieces and try to restock and see what we can do. I'm with you. That's definitely the best thing. It would be serious management. Like, they would be not just doing the fun thing. It would be taking your lumps a little bit, and it would be the best thing. But, you know, they don't like that here. They had Keith Pelly open the year saying this is a go for it type year. And I think that's the mentality they've all got.
You know, it's interesting, though, when we were talking about from the very beginning with Kirk Cousins and how you treat the fans like they're adults.
They would get it. It's like Flames fans right now. Flames fans are like, oh my God, rebuild, say it.
Like, that's actually one of to your Columbus analogy of getting a player pod that gives more enlightened answers. If you're Columbus and you're in the same position as the Leafs, you feel way more impetus to say, we need the playoff revenue and our fans check out if we're bad. And they actually, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Columbus fans. You just got picked out of the blue. I know you've had a tough year getting called by Bill Simmons, the most irrelevant franchise, whatever. And now
go a little strays there. Sorry, Columbus.
Yeah, but my greater point here is that you wouldn't have as educated of a fan base at large saying, I understand that you're taking a step back to take a step forward. My guess is people would still sell out the arena. People are still going to go buy Leaf stuff.
Everyone would get it.
Right.
And you can sell hope. You can sell hope as we're doing the right things. We're going to get going the other way.
Which is weird to think that an organization like this, with so much at their disposal when it comes to, like, we always talk about, hey, they have more money to spend on coaches. They have more money to spend on staff and on scouts and on player development and all these different avenues in which, because they're a deep-pocketed team, they could take advantage of this thing. That wouldn't one of your biggest advantages be you can also dial back a year where you don't get playoff revenue because you are so rich, but also because you have such an engaged fan base that they would be sold on hope and they would probably back you and not flip out because you weren't pushing in to be the 8th seed in a playoff series.
Well, and everything is viewed through the lens of expectation. Everything in sports, you know, and that's why we're all over Matthews this year. It's like, okay, well, he's expected to be here and he's short of that. And we hand out the Jack Adams every year based purely on expectation. if you did this, you would completely recalibrate public expectations for your team. And I think that would garner more goodwill when you're playing even like
I
this.
agree.
You make a mature decision this year. Next year, you say, hey, we're trying to get back in the playoffs and see what we can do. And when you're at that level, people are like, it's working. They're doing what they said they did, Well,
there's also the case for exactly what you outlined with Doug Armstrong, where because the league is flat and because you do have good goaltending,
you could still get in.
You could still get in, and you could have people excited about the idea that you actually have stuff to add to this group in the future. So if they show you something, you can say, you know what? These guys did a thing. We really liked this. We are investing in these couple of guys, and then we are going to try to add to this group and use these assets that we got this year. Now, there's no reason.
OEL's an easy first.
Correct. So why not try and just say, all right, let's see it. And if you show something, then we'll invest it right away. If you don't, we might hold on to it a little bit longer, but you will have overall the understanding of the fans. You can't win everybody over, right? Like, that's the medium that we do. I was talking about this with Ennis earlier, is if you do a take, if you're harsh on a team, people will think you're too harsh on them, and some people will think you're not harsh enough, and some people will think that you're right there. That's the audience. So you're not going to win over every single Leaf fan, but my guess would be that the majority of people would be able to at least understand it. And if they can have a conversation about it, that means that you've done something that is okay. Anyway, last thing, because you've been generous with the time, I want to talk to you about sports pods. Because Barstool Sports announced that they have 3 of their shows, their 3 biggest podcasts, going to Netflix. So behind a paywall for their video, still free for their audio. And I'm curious what your thought was when you saw this news, because, you are a guy who likes to think about the business the way that I do.
Yeah. Well, I think it's fascinating and, a real evolution for the way that people consume this stuff. I think it's unfortunate in that it seems to go the way of more stuff costs money. Like, I'm tired of subscribing to everything and paying for everything. But I also recognize, and this kind of started with The Athletic, it's like, if you want good work, it costs money to make, and the people got to be paid. And that's how this works. Like, there's money involved to make good content. So, it sucks a little bit that stuff would go behind a paywall. I think it's less convenient where it is for the consumer. That maybe isn't awesome necessarily. And then I'll be honest, like, from a professional point of view, I like that people are seeing the value in pods and that this stuff's people are really engaged with it, and that there are more platforms that are in pursuit of people who do it well.
A lot of that I agree with. I don't know if it's going to work. Like, I think it's a long-term. If you're going to invest in this and you're Netflix, you have to
be giving them a pile of money.
Well, not just that, but you have to. Well, of course, because you're removing so much of your audience. Like, it's important.
Yeah, they're off YouTube. They only have 1 million subscribers. On Pardon My Take.
Right, and not just that. It's what happens with clips. Like, are you allowed still to post the video clips to the internet? Or are you going to post the video clips to YouTube? Like, what's the fallout when it comes to that? Because you have massive audiences with TikTok and with YouTube and all of these different places. So I can't personally, I don't really watch a lot of podcasts as is. I don't consume YouTube pods. The only way I'll ever go there is if someone's referencing a video or something and I go, I kind of want to see that. For the most part, it's a audio only experience for me. But that's also our age group, right? I think our age group grew up with sports radio. Then they got podcasts at the inception. And so our listening habits were always, well, we get it this way. But that the growth of pods is going to come through YouTube. And even now, like, our numbers, a show like Leafs Talk, it does more on YouTube than it does on like a traditional download space. The people that are watching it there's far more people that watch than who download. So I look at it and say, if you're Netflix, you have to be able to absorb a first couple of years where absolutely nobody's going to do this. I just don't think people are going to sit down in front of their Netflix on their couch and go play Pardon My Take as much as they would just have it versus now you're leaving the ecosystem of YouTube and entering the ecosystem of there's a Leonardo DiCaprio movie on here.
Well, the leap is you're not a second screen anymore. You've been on second screens. Now the
Primary
implication
screen.
is you can be the primary, and I don't know that it can. So anyone sitting down for 2 hours to watch people talk about sports?
I just can't.
I hope so, but
maybe, but I don't know if that's going to work against the library that a Netflix has, and that is they're going to continue to build. To me, this is more about them using these couple huge established podcasts as a way of now building out what will be their own podcast network, where now they can greenlight a project, because it's hard to get a pod off the ground, right?
Yeah.
You got to have like a crazy amount of celebrity status, because it's about chemistry. It's about the way people interact with another more so than it is. That's why Meghan Markle's podcast, nobody's going to listen to that, because they're not. Spotify paid her like a lot of money. I want to say $100 million to do a podcast, and it flopped. Yeah. So the only way I think you do something like that, though, is if you already have a collection, like they did it, where they went, we got Rogan and we got Bill Simmons. Right. And so now you can get this thing here as well. We're going to try and take some shots. You'll have some failure, but maybe you can start to build it out in a way that it becomes a place that is a hub for people who are watching pods and listening to pods. You're right about how I don't like the commodification of everything, obviously, but you're right. If you're going to do a good pod, I know a lot of people think it's just like flipping on a microphone and you BS with your friends or whatever, but it does take a lot of time, effort, energy to put into it. And eventually, obviously, the people who are doing it are going to want to get paid beyond just like the ads that come in for you. They're going to be looking for more. And I don't know what the future of this is going to be. Like, you know, I think that you're looking at a situation where pretty much any good or popular work, there's going to be some kind of a paywall in order to access it.
Yeah, and that's becoming this, like, societally, there's this like 2-tiered system of like, are you wealthy enough to be informed?
Yeah.
You know, like, can you afford the good reporting? And it's like, oh, that's not a
I don't
healthy
like that.
environment to be in.
Yeah, I don't
No,
like that.
it's not. And you know, and then you've got stuff, you know, not for us to just completely have a conversation like we're not on the air, but like, you know, Amazon has their hockey games on Monday nights. It's mildly inconvenient to go into a streaming service than back to whatever, you know, to cable to watch the Raptors.
Yeah, I don't like it at all.
No. And then so, you know, you've got these places being like, well, what if we bundle all these subscriptions and we get all these different one price for all these different subs? And it's like, that's cable. You're reinventing cable.
I think about this all the time, is how good we had it with cable.
It's so good.
We didn't know. We complained so hard and everybody cried about it, boo-hoo. And it was like, what, all the sports in the same place and all the shows in the same place?
You got to hit the up button.
Well, especially once we got PVR and you were able just to record your shows and watch them at any given time, and everything was there, and maybe you had to pay for an extra channel here and there, but ultimately like the cost of it versus what you're enduring now. Like, you know, there's a popular podcast ad that's like for a service that you subscribe to that tells you how much you're spending on your subscriptions.
Yeah.
So that you clean it up. It's on TV now as well. There's the diaper commercial where they see the people with the diapers at their house. And you go, that's actually a modern problem, is that people pay for so many things now that we actually have to have an app to tell you, hey, you don't use the things
you have to pay. Is it a subscription app to pay for the
Yes, of course you do. Of course there's a fee. Like, everybody's getting paid. So it's wild to me that this is where we've gotten, and that it's going to get even further and further this way. But yeah, to your point about, you know, whether or not you have the money to get it, that does spook me a lot. Like, and you see this with just how
I don't know the solution though. Like, I'm not doing this for free.
No, I know.
You know, like,
I know. I think about it often with news stuff, and it's why, like, I've canceled some subscriptions to some places, and it's like it's getting harder and harder to do. Anyway, yeah, all right, that was depressing. Let's just go on that.
Fun talk.
Justin Bourne, you can listen to him later today on Real Kipper and Bourne. Thanks for making time, buddy. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Bunk. Talk to you.
See you, pal. Justin Bourne. It is Leafs game day. You can score a Popeyes chicken sandwich for only $6 in classic or spicy. Make it your new game day tradition. Get your $6 chicken sandwich at a Popeyes near you. Quick break. We'll hit what we missed. All right, Brandon Brown, what did we miss?
Little NFL news yesterday. Tua Tagovailoa, Dolphins head coach, announced that he would be sitting for the final 3 weeks of the season for the Dolphins after they were eliminated by Pittsburgh on Monday. Quinn Ewers out of Texas will get his first career start on Sunday. So, do you think it was a little too late for Tua, or did they make their decision at the right time?
So the general consensus seems to be that Tua is benched because they are 100% moving on, which makes sense because I think that's the way that I would read it with most quarterbacks. There's a couple things here for me. One is, are we certain that they're not, given his guaranteed money and the dead cap hit if they move off of him, Are we certain that they are 100% moving off of him and there isn't an element here of, hey, we're done? We might as well protect our quarterback from further injury given his track record with head trauma. Maybe not. That doesn't seem to be any part of the conversation, but it is something that I thought about. Two is I wonder how much him smiling and laughing it up at the end of that game actually hurt him and was a message to him moving forward of this just is not acceptable, because the Dolphins vibe for a lot of years now has been not so great. They tried to tough it up. They went in the snow. This was a massive game for them. If they win it, they're very much in the playoff picture.
Yeah.
If they lose it, they're basically out. And you have the leader in the face of your franchise laughing it up on the sideline. And to kind of keep with the theme of today, which is talking about athletes and the way they perceive things and the way that a lot of fans get behind them on the human being element of it all, it's hard for me to believe in anyone, in any workplace, when things are going really poorly in a big spot, if they're laughing it up, that you look at that and don't go, what the hell are you doing? You know?
Yeah.
And if you're a leader, especially, and that's what you're conveying to people, it's a pretty terrible look, especially considering he does not have any pelts on the wall or significant accolades. His biggest thing is what? The game against the Broncos a year ago where they scored what, 60 points, 70 points? God, they scored so many points. I can't even remember, because it's one of those numbers where you say it and it feels fake how many he had. I would guess that he's done. I would guess that they pivot to someone else and they basically do what the Browns are doing with Deshaun Watson, what the Broncos did with Russell Wilson. This isn't an unprecedented move. It's a little weirder from the standpoint of their head coach, because he runs an offense that Tua is supposed to be able to run in a way that is materially different than, say, Russell Wilson, who Sean Payton inherited and didn't feel like he could drive the car. So in doing this, it's kind of signing, maybe the guy already knows that he's fired and he's not going to continue here. So he's doing the thing of like, hey, see, I can move off my quarterback and go to a younger guy, but it's kind of too late. So it feels to me as though Mike McDaniel has also signed his resignation letter by admitting that Tua isn't the guy. Anyway.
No, I mean, I would agree. I think with everything that's happened with Tua, the concussions, obviously, the way his career started, now you see guys like Justin Herbert, who was picked right behind him.
I know, it's so tough.
It's just a tough situation. It does feel
used to be you took Culpepper over Breeze, but this one is that's it.
The version, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it definitely feels like, for me at least, that Tua's probably played his last game with the Dolphins.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't think he'll be a starting quarterback anywhere else. Seems as though he's a backup.
That's fair.
He goes, he gets cut, he signs somewhere, he's a backup. I cannot imagine your franchise taking him on. If he's a starter, it's because he gets, like Russell Wilson was the starter ahead of Jackson Dart to start this season.
Right, gets a chance.
Or it's Jacoby Brissett, who they know they're moving off the other quarterback, so they're just starting you for the rest of a year, but he's never going to be he's not a guy. He's established he's not a guy. What's next?
So the Knicks, after winning the NBA Cup, they ultimately decided not to hang an NBA Cup banner. They'll be the first team to win the NBA Cup to not do that. Both LA and Milwaukee hoisted banners after winning theirs. But they also have real championship banners in the last 5 or 6 years. So do you understand the decision from the Knicks' perspective to not hang the banner?
I like that they didn't hang the banner. Your point there about not having won anything recently makes it embarrassing for them to do so. Yeah. I, as a Maple Leaf fan, one of the tortured franchises in professional sports that has gone a very long time without winning something, there's no parallel here. But you can only have one thing be important to you. It's why when I saw the way the players celebrated and the way some of their fans reacted to it, I'm not saying don't be happy and don't enjoy it, because you should. And again, the ring culture thing is too out of whack at times. I think I've become too much of a ring culture guy. That there's moments where I watch sports and I go, am I enjoying this if I don't feel as though my team can win? And that's kind of a bummer. Like, for example, the Seattle Seahawks